It all starts with a shocking discovery of my ex-wife's cheating. We will call her Emma. We used to work together at the same place, and after a while, we started liking each other a lot. It was kind of cool because we got to see each other every day at work. Then I got a new job, which was even better because we didn't have to hide our relationship anymore. Things got pretty serious between us and we decided to get married. We also had an adorable daughter named Amy. After being super busy for a long time, we thought it would be a great idea to visit my parents for Thanksgiving since I hadn't seen them in years. It was also a chance for Amy to hang out with her grandparents and learn a bit about where I came from. My parents were super happy to see us, especially Amy, and they gave us a really warm welcome. We had just wrapped up this amazing dinner with my folks, where we were sharing stories and catching up on all the time we missed being together. It felt really good, you know. But as the evening wore on, Amy, my little champ, started to show signs of getting really tired. I mean, it had been a long day and it was getting late, so I decided it was her bedtime. But Amy, being the bundle of energy she is, wasn't quite ready to hit the hay. Instead, she pulled out her best pretty please face and begged for just a little bit of video game time before bed. Now, I'm not usually the type to give in so easily, but who can say no to those big pleading eyes? So I agreed, and we ended up playing this game on her tablet. And let me tell you, it was surprisingly a blast. We were both totally engrossed, battling it out in the game, completely losing track of time. By the time I glanced at the clock, it was way past her bedtime. Oops. So, with a bit of a dad's gotta do what dad's gotta do attitude, I finally said game over, took the tablet away, and got her settled into bed. With Amy now off to dreamland, I headed back to where Emma and my parents were. They were still deep in conversation, but I decided to hang back a bit, lounging on the living room couch with a tablet. I figured, why not unwind with a few more minutes of gaming, right? So there I was, getting really into the game, when out of nowhere, this text notification pops up on the screen and it's from some dude named Jake saying, "Missing you already." Talk about a record scratch moment. I just froze, game forgotten, as my brain tried to make sense of what I was seeing. A million questions started buzzing around in my head, like why in the world would my 8-year-old daughter be getting late-night texts from some guy? And who the heck was this Jake guy anyway? It was one of those moments where everything just stops and you're left trying to piece together a puzzle you didn't even know existed. So there I was, chilling on the couch, just trying to enjoy a game on the tablet after a long day. Out of nowhere, this text pops up from a guy named Jake. At first I was like, wait, what? Why is Jake texting my daughter? But then, plot twist, I realized the tablet wasn't just any tablet. It was basically a mirror reflecting all of Emma's messages, because it was hooked up to her cloud. Emma, in what was probably a hectic mom moment, had handed it over to Amy without remembering it was still synced to her stuff. Now, with a ton of curiosity and a hint of dread, I tapped on Jake's message, half expecting something mundane. But oh boy, was I wrong. Diving into those messages was like stepping into a whole different world, where Emma and Jake were the main characters. Every scroll felt like peeling back a layer of secrecy I didn't even know existed. Jake, our neighbor, the guy I'd only exchanged a couple of "hey, how's it going" with, suddenly had a starring role in this drama unfolding right before my eyes. Their chats were a mix of planning secret meetups, sharing little inside jokes, and to be honest, a lot of stuff that made it clear they weren't just friends. Clicking through, it hit me that this wasn't just some flirty thing. They were deep into each other. They talked about everything, man. Like, Emma was sharing bits about our marriage, stuff I thought was just between us. She mentioned not feeling the love anymore, but not wanting to be the one to end it and look like the villain. Reading all this, I felt like I was in one of those slow-motion scenes where everything around the main character starts falling apart. It was surreal, seeing words that suggested my wife, well, ex-wife, and my neighbor were more than just buddies. They were sharing stuff you'd only share with someone you're really close to. And here I was, just finding out about it through a tablet meant for playing kids' games. It was a whirlwind of emotions, man. 1 minute, I'm thinking about how cool it was to catch up with my parents and how Amy was enjoying her time with the grandparents. And the next, I'm slapped with the reality that while I was living in my little bubble, there was this whole other narrative going on right under my nose. Emma and Jake, talking about us like I was a side character in my own life story, plotting their little secret rendezvous, and sharing thoughts and feelings that, honestly, felt like a betrayal. It's one thing to hear rumors or have suspicions, but seeing it all laid out in black and white, that's a whole other level of hurt. It's like I was the last to know about the ending of my own marriage, watching it all unfold through text messages meant for someone else. It's wild, really, how life can throw these curveballs at you when you least expect it. I'm sitting there, knee-deep in text messages that are straight-up nightmare fuel. Emma's out here spilling her guts to Jake, our neighbor, about how I'm always glued to my work and how she's soaking up all the love and attention from him like a sponge. Jake's all about it, bragging about how sweet it is to be just a hop, skip, and a jump away, ready to swing by whenever I'm out with Amy. The stuff they're texting each other, man, it's the kind of thing that would make you want to scrub your brain clean. Stumbling upon Emma's little secret rendezvous with Jake hit me like a ton of bricks. It's like you're minding your own business, then bam, reality smacks you right in the face. My brain was doing somersaults trying to piece together this whole mess. Here I was, thinking we're a typical family. And meanwhile, Emma's living a double life. So what do? I start going all CSI on the situation, taking pics of their chats with my phone, hands shaking like I'm in the middle of an earthquake. I was half expecting Emma to pop up any second, catch me red-handed. But I needed proof, right? Couldn't just let this slide. The last thing I wanted was for Amy to catch even a whiff of this drama. She's just a kid, but kids are smart, you know. They pick up on stuff. No way was I going to let her find out her mom's got a side gig as a secret agent in the land of not-so-happy marriages. So after I made sure I had enough evidence, I cleared out that tablet. Made it as clean as a whistle. Sure, Emma's phone was still out there holding all the secrets, but at least Amy's little gaming tablet wasn't going to blow the lid off this whole thing. It felt weird, doing all that sneaky stuff. But it was like I was in this weird game of keep away, trying to protect Amy from the messy truth. In that moment, deleting those messages felt like the only bit of control I had in a situation that was spiraling faster than a tornado in a cartoon. Man, that night was brutal. I was flipping and flopping like a fish out of water, just couldn't catch a wink of sleep. My brain was on overdrive, replaying everything, trying to piece together why Emma, my wife, decided to step out on our marriage. Then came morning, and after grabbing some brunch with Amy and my folks, I knew it was showdown time with Emma. I had a ton of questions, and boy, I wasn't going to let her wiggle out of this one. When I finally got the chance to sit her down and spill the beans about what I knew, Emma's first reaction was to deny. Deny, deny. It was like watching someone try to dodge raindrops. Just wasn't happening. But hey, I came prepared. I had all the receipts, those texts, calls, and all that jazz. It didn't take long for her to start falling apart once she saw the proof. The floodgates opened and there she was, crying and admitting to the whole messy affair. She tried to say she felt lonely and neglected because of my work hours, as if that was some sort of excuse for hopping into bed with Jake, our too friendly neighbor. She said she regretted it, but you know, talk is cheap. Then I asked the million-dollar question, the one I was dreading. How long had this been going on? Her answer felt like a sucker punch to the stomach. She and Jake had been at it for a whole year. Hearing that felt like being on the receiving end of the world's worst news. A whole year of lies and sneaking around, and here I was, clueless until now. The weight of that revelation was like a ton of bricks, and I was left wondering where we all went wrong and how we got to this point. The realization hit me like a freight train. Here I was, busting my back day in and day out for our family while Emma was out there, breaking our vows. The disgust that washed over me was palpable. It's one thing to have suspicions, but hearing the truth straight from her mouth, that just knocked the wind right out of me. The room felt heavier, like we were both drowning in this thick, oppressive air of betrayal. The trust we'd built, brick by brick over the years, just crumbled into dust in an instant. Feeling that betrayal, man, it's indescribable. It's not just sadness, it's this deep gnawing pit in your stomach that just doesn't go away. Tears started pouring out of me, uncontrollable and raw. All those emotions I'd been trying to keep a lid on just burst out. Emma was still there, trying to stitch up the situation with her words, but it was like her voice was coming from a million miles away. Our marriage was in ruins and her explanations couldn't piece back together what was broken. As we were locked in this intense back and forth, my parents walked in, Amy in tow. The look on their faces, it was clear they could read the room the second they stepped in. Concern, confusion, worry. It was all there. My dad, bless him, quickly took Amy away from the scene, trying to protect her innocence from the mess that was unfolding. It was a stark reminder of the ripple effects our personal battles have, especially on the little ones who look up to us. I was reeling, absolutely gutted by the whole mess. A whole year Emma had been sneaking around behind my back while I was busting my hump, trying to make sure we had everything we needed. The disgust I felt was palpable, like a bitter taste I couldn't spit out. It's one thing to have suspicions about your partner stepping out on you, but hearing it, confirmed straight from the horse's mouth, was a whole other level of hurt. The air in the room got heavy, thick with the reality of her betrayal, and the trust we'd built up over the years crumbled to dust right then and there. All I could feel was this deep, aching sense of betrayal. No fancy words could dress it up or make it feel any less vile. Just a raw, gnawing pain in the pit of my stomach. I broke down, completely undone by the tidal wave of emotions crashing over me. Emma tried to keep talking, tried to justify her actions, but her words were like white noise against the backdrop of our broken marriage. The argument spiraled, each new revelation pouring gasoline on the fire. Until my folks got back with Amy, they could read the disaster on our faces in an instant. Dad whisked Amy away, trying to protect her from the emotional hurricane tearing through the house. Left alone with my mom, I let it all spill out. The affair, the lies, everything. Mom's face went through a whole journey, from confusion to shock, then settling into this deep pained frown. Meanwhile, Emma was putting on a performance, tears streaming down her face, playing the victim card like she had the deck stacked in her favor. She spun this tale about how my job and the lack of attention drove her into Jake's arms, as if that was some kind of excuse. Claimed she was pushed into it, that she had regrets. Mom was trying to wrap her head around the whole sordid tale, visibly shaken when I laid out how long Emma had been carrying on with Jake. The look of disappointment she shot Emma could have cut glass. Then, with a voice steady and filled with an authority I'd always respected, she told Emma she had to leave right then and there. Silence fell over the room like a blanket. I looked at Emma, still caught up in her act, and told her she needed to pack up and go. Amy and I were going to stay put, try to salvage what was left of the holidays without the cloud of her betrayal hanging over us. It was the only way forward, the only way to start picking up the pieces of a life suddenly turned upside down. When Emma stopped arguing and just nodded, heading upstairs to pack, it felt like the final chapter of a book closing with a thud. Those 10 minutes felt like an eternity, and when the door clicked shut behind her, a heavy silence took over the room. It was just me now, with my thoughts running wild, a jumble of betrayal, anger, and a sadness so deep it felt like I was drowning in it. The days that followed were some of the toughest I've ever faced. My mom, who had been right there through the worst of it, filled my dad in on every painful detail. Seeing their reactions, a mix of disbelief and shock, was like reliving the whole nightmare all over again. They were hurt too, having opened their home and hearts to Emma, only to be let down in such a devastating way. Then there was Amy, my sweet, innocent 8-year-old, with her big, questioning eyes, constantly asking where her mom was. Each time she asked, it was like a knife twisting in my gut. I had to protect her from this ugly truth, so I lied, telling her that Emma had to take care of some urgent work stuff. The look of hurt and confusion in her eyes broke me, but I couldn't bring myself to lay the real reason on her shoulders. She was too young, too pure to be burdened with the weight of adult mistakes. Navigating this mess, trying to shield Amy from the pain while dealing with my own heartache, was a balancing act I never imagined I'd have to perform. Every day was a reminder of the life we used to have, and every night was a battle to find some peace amidst the turmoil. The betrayal wasn't just a wound in my heart, it was a shadow over everything that once felt safe and secure. The days that followed felt like moving through a fog of confusion and heartache. My parents were rocks, their presence a constant source of comfort as we all tried to wrap our heads around the massive upheaval that had turned our lives upside down. What was supposed to be a happy family get-together for the holidays had morphed into a somber affair, the joy sucked out by the dark cloud of Emma's betrayal hanging over us. We did our best to keep the festive spirit alive, but it was hard. Every laugh felt forced, every smile a bit too strained, as we all danced around the elephant in the room. Living through those days was tough. Everything reminded me of what we had lost. The betrayal, not just a personal blow to me, but a betrayal to my parents, too. They had treated Emma like a daughter, and this was how she repaid that kindness. It cut deep, deeper than I thought possible. And then there was Amy, my little girl with her big, innocent questions about where her mom was. I had to lie to her, tell her Emma was away on work, even though every word felt like swallowing glass. Seeing the confusion and hurt in her eyes was a new kind of torture. Protecting her from the ugly truth felt necessary, but it also felt like the heaviest burden I'd ever carried. Eventually, the time came to head back home, to face the reality of what my life had become. The thought of walking back into our house, where Emma had betrayed our family, filled me with a rage and sadness I couldn't shake. I knew things were over between us, and it was time to make that clear, to start the painful process of untangling our lives. When we got back, there was Emma waiting for us with that look in her eyes, like she was sorry and hoped everything could just go back to the way it was. But some things can't be undone. Watching Amy run to her, oblivious to the pain and betrayal, was like a knife twisting in my heart. Here was this pure, innocent love for my daughter, in stark contrast to the mess of lies and deceit that had become my marriage. The sight was a stark reminder of just how much had been lost, and how much work lay ahead to rebuild what could be salvaged from the ruins. The room was thick with tension as we stood there, just Emma and me, trying to navigate the wreckage of what used to be our marriage. Her apologies were pouring out, a mix of remorse and desperate promises that things could change, that she had already cut ties with Jake. But those words, they hit my ears like empty promises. The irony of her claiming to have cut off all contact with Jake when he was literally a stone's throw away, living right next door, was too much. I couldn't help but let out a bitter, incredulous laugh. Confronting her with the reality of our situation, I couldn't keep the sarcasm from my voice. You've cut off contact with Jake. Really, Emma? He's our neighbor. How do you plan to avoid him? Her response was a mix of stammers and half-baked explanations, but my patience had worn thin. The endless cycle of lies and deceit had taken its toll, and I was at my breaking point. This is too late, I told her, my voice steady but heavy with the pain and resolve of my decision. Every word felt like closing a chapter, sealing away the pain and betrayal with a finality that I knew had to be done. The shock on Emma's face was palpable, a mix of realization and fear, as she finally understood the depth of the damage done, the irrevocable rift that had torn apart what we once had. The moment I declared my intention to divorce, it felt like the world stood still. Emma's reaction, a mixture of shock and a dawning realization, confirmed the enormity of the situation. Her attempts to argue her way out of it, to promise changes and plead for another chance, fell on deaf ears. I had reached my limit, and there was no turning back from the decision to end our marriage. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the unsaid and the irreversible. It marked the end of an era in our lives, the closing of a chapter that had started with love and ended in betrayal. The process of moving out and filing for divorce was painful, a tangible manifestation of the failure of our marriage. It was a difficult period, marked by arguments over assets and the future of our family. However, the prenuptial agreement we had in place became a saving grace, preventing the situation from devolving into a battle over finances, especially in light of the affair that had led to our separation. The most heart-wrenching part of the divorce was deciding the fate of our daughter, Amy. The custody battle was a stark reminder of the consequences of our failed marriage, impacting not just us, but our innocent child. In the end, we settled on a 50-50 custody arrangement, a compromise that, while far from perfect, was aimed at minimizing the disruption to Amy's life. My commitment to child support was unwavering, driven by the desire to ensure Amy's well-being and stability despite the turmoil surrounding us. The journey through divorce and custody arrangements was a tumultuous one, transforming our lives in ways I had never imagined. Amidst the legal battles and emotional upheaval, my focus remained on providing a sense of normalcy and security for Amy, hoping to shield her from the worst of our conflicts and lay the groundwork for a future where, despite everything, she could thrive. Despite the complexity of our situation and the hurt feelings between Emma and me, I was determined to keep things as amicable as possible for the sake of our daughter, Amy. Seeing Amy caught between two homes was tough, but I made every effort to ensure she felt loved and cherished when she was with me. Our little adventures, whether it was shopping for new things or just spending quality time together, were moments I treasured deeply. They were my way of showing her that despite the changes in our family dynamic, my love for her remained unchanged. However, it didn't take long for me to notice that something was off with the way Amy was being cared for when she wasn't with me. The discrepancy in her appearance on the days she returned from her mom's place raised red flags in my mind. I couldn't understand why Amy would consistently be in old clothes when I knew she had plenty of new ones waiting in her closet, clothes that we had picked out together. Approaching Emma about it was a delicate matter. I didn't want to start an argument or make co-parenting any harder than it already was. But my concern for Amy's well-being outweighed the potential for conflict. Emma's response, that Amy was saving the clothes for special occasions, didn't sit right with me. It sounded like a convenient excuse rather than a genuine reason. However, I chose to let it go for the moment, prioritizing Amy's emotional stability over my need for answers. Co-parenting was a balancing act, and I was learning to pick my battles. Ensuring Amy grew up feeling secure and loved was my top priority, and if that meant overlooking certain issues temporarily, so be it. Nonetheless, the situation served as a reminder of the ongoing challenges that lay ahead in navigating this new chapter of our lives, where the well-being of our child had to come first. no matter the personal costs. Finding Amy alone like that, waiting on the driveway, was a wake-up call I never saw coming. My heart raced with a mix of concern and anger. How could Emma be so careless? To leave our little girl alone without making sure someone was home to receive her. It was irresponsible, and it scared me to think of what could have happened to Amy during that hour alone. I scooped Amy up, hugging her tightly, relieved that she was okay but shaken by the situation. Once we were inside, safe and sound, I tried to calm my racing thoughts. This incident was a glaring red flag that something needed to change. We couldn't go on like this, with miscommunication and lapses in judgment putting our daughter at risk. The first thing I did was call Emma. My words were measured but firm, expressing my shock and disappointment at her decision to drop Amy off without confirmation that I was home. I stressed the importance of communication between us, especially when it involved the safety and well-being of our daughter. The conversation was tense, with Emma offering apologies and assurances that it wouldn't happen again. But apologies weren't enough. We needed a solid plan to ensure Amy's safety in the future. From that day forward, I made it a point to double-check our schedules and confirm pickup and drop-off times with Emma. I also talked to Amy about safety, ensuring she knew what to do if she ever found herself in a similar situation again. Despite the challenges of co-parenting with Emma, my priority was clear. Amy's safety and happiness were paramount. This incident reinforced the importance of communication and vigilance in our co-parenting arrangement, reminding us that above all, our daughter's well-being must come first. The realization that Emma was likely not in a state to have a responsible conversation about our daughter's safety hit me hard. It was one thing to navigate the choppy waters of co-parenting post-divorce, but quite another to deal with situations where our child's well-being could be compromised due to irresponsible decisions. As much as I wanted to resolve the issue then and there, I knew it wouldn't be productive. Hanging up the phone, my mind was a whirlwind of concern and frustration. The safety and happiness of my daughter were my utmost priorities, and the thought of her being left alone, potentially at risk, was unacceptable. The incident underscored a serious need for clear, responsible communication between Emma and me regarding Amy's care. The next day, as I prepared to drop off Amy, I mentally rehearsed how I would approach the conversation with Emma. It was crucial to set emotions aside and focus on establishing guidelines that would prevent such incidents from occurring again. When I finally met with Emma, I made sure to express my concerns calmly but firmly. I highlighted the importance of ensuring that one of us was always there to receive Amy, and that leaving her unattended, even for a short period, was not an option. Emma's initial defensiveness slowly gave way to acknowledgement of the situation's seriousness. We agreed to implement a more rigorous communication plan for Amy's transitions between homes, including confirming availability before drop-offs and sharing our schedules more transparently. Though the road ahead would surely hold more challenges, this agreement was a step toward creating a safer, more structured environment for Amy. Amid the complexities of co-parenting, it was a reminder that our daughter's needs and safety had to come first, guiding our decisions and interactions. She laughed dismissively and suggested that I read the note she had given our daughter. Perplexed, I called for Amy and asked about the note that her mother had apparently given her. Amy fished around in her pocket and handed me a crumpled note. The message inside explained that my ex-wife did not want to take care of our daughter anymore due to the inadequacy of the child support payments. I froze in shock and bewilderment. I was paying hefty child support every month, and despite this, Emma had the audacity to demand more from me by putting our daughter in danger. It struck me as a desperate move, but instead of reacting emotionally, I decided to take a strategic approach swiftly. I called Child Protection Services, CPS, and the police to file an official complaint against my ex-wife for abandoning our child. I have CCTV footage which proves that she had left our child on the driveway all alone. The police took this very seriously and asked me for the location so they could arrest her for putting our child in danger. After filing an official complaint, I talked with my lawyer. After full custody, Emma had cheated on me, and I had let that go because of our child. But now that she had put my dear daughter in danger, I couldn't just let her go. We decided to file a motion to get full custody with the police report that I had filed against her for abandonment. Her parents called me in shock, wanting to know why Emma was calling them from jail, and I filled them in. They were extremely concerned and shocked by the news. While they acknowledged that my actions were motivated by a desire to protect our child, they pleaded with me to reconsider pressing charges against Emma. Despite their emotional appeal, I remained steadfast. The safety and well-being of my daughter was paramount, and I couldn't let Emma's reckless actions slide. I explained to her parents that filing an official complaint was not an arbitrary decision, but a response to a situation and where Amy's safety was compromised. I emphasized that the legal action was a necessary step to ensure that such incidents did not happen again. As I spoke with conviction about the need to prioritize Amy's welfare, their pleas grew more desperate. They begged me to drop the charges, citing Emma's mental state and the potential impact on her life. However, I stood firm, reiterating that I had tolerated much for the sake of our child, but would not compromise when it came to her safety. The tension between us heightened as they grappled with the harsh reality of the situation. In their desperation, they proposed alternative solutions like supervised visitations or counseling for Emma. While I appreciated that concern, I couldn't ignore the fact that the abandonment incident had been a severe breach of trust. In the end, their pleas fell on deaf ears. I had made up my mind to pursue full custody to ensure a stable and secure environment. For Amy, I informed them that in a few days I would have someone go to that place and get everything that belonged to Amy back to my place so Amy could continue to stay here with me. When I informed Amy about the new developments, she was beyond ecstatic. I know how important it is for my child to have peace and stability in her life, so I was happy for us. In a few weeks, we were summoned to court. My lawyer presented my case, revealing the neglect and manipulation orchestrated by my ex-wife. We showed the judge the note that Emma had given to Amy to give to me while leaving her at my doorstep for over an hour without informing me. We also pointed out the fact that every time I bought my daughter something new, my ex-wife would refuse my daughter to wear it, which is why my daughter would always be dressed shabbily, while Emma's lawyer tried her best to defend her client. The judge saw through Emma's attempts to manipulate the situation and recognized that the child support meant for our daughter was being misused, perhaps for her own personal benefit. In a surprising turn of events, the judge ruled that not only was Emma going to lose custody of our child, but she also had to pay a $25,000 penalty for misusing all the child support I had been paying her that year. The judge, understanding the gravity of her actions, ruled that this penalty would also be covering my legal fees. I was honestly not expecting this and had never in a million years thought that Emma would get a penalty. It was a bitter victory, but one that secured a brighter future for my daughter, free from the clutches of a mother who had lost her way. Since this court ruling, I feel so at peace knowing that I am the only one who is going to be taking care of my daughter. As expected, my ex-wife and her family have continued to message me, saying that I shouldn't have punished Emma so harshly. They thought it wasn't a big deal that she abandoned our kid, and kept telling me that I was going to be a terrible father. I would like to know if am I the jerk for taking action against my ex-wife for doing this to my daughter. Update 1. Thank you everyone for understanding the gravity of the situation and also understanding why I asked for sole custody in the first place. I have no idea if Emma is going through a mental breakdown, and honestly I don't want to know that also. Whatever may be the case, she should have talked with me first. She did not have to take such a drastic step by leaving our kid all alone in the driveway. The last couple of weeks have been bliss. I can do anything for my little one. Hence, I have been spending the last few days creating a routine for both of us. Our mornings now involve waking up together with me, helping her get ready for school. I've even been watching numerous YouTube tutorials, gradually honing my skills in crafting the perfect ponytail for her. Regardless of what Emma and her parents might believe, my commitment is unwavering. I'm determined to provide everything for Amy so that she never feels like she's missing out on anything. Update 2. It's been a month since my last update, so forgive me, but I have been very busy with my life. The reason for this update is a recent revelation from mutual friends about Emma's pregnancy. Apparently, she's 3 months pregnant, which is child. When Jake learned about it, he pleaded with her not to proceed with the pregnancy, but Emma insisted on keeping it. In response, he left her, which explained her erratic behavior lately. Emma found herself in financial bind. She couldn't turn to her parents for more money, fearing eviction. Consequently, she resorted to selling the new clothes I had been providing for Amy. This clarified why our daughter couldn't wear the new outfits, and Emma had been concocting stories about saving them for the special occasions. It also dawned on me that her note demanding increased child support was likely an attempt to secure more funds for her second child. What disgusted me the most was the sheer irresponsibility of her actions. Despite being aware of her pregnancy, she left Amy at my doorstep and went out drinking. It's a level of negligence that's difficult to fathom. I'm grateful I fought for full custody of my daughter, considering what Emma might have put Amy through with the arrival of her second child. Update 3. It's been 6 months since my last update, and life has been going great so far. Amy and I have only gotten closer, and I can proudly say that I think I'm doing a good job as a single parent. Emma has not attempted to contact me or show any inclination to meet Amy over the last month, so hopefully she doesn't disturb our peace anymore. With New Year's on the horizon, I've arranged a surprise for Amy, a trip to Disneyland, knowing her deep love for all the Disney characters. I'm eagerly anticipating the joy that will lighten up her face when she discovers the magical adventure awaiting her. I'm determined to create beautiful memories. Discovers the magical adventure awaiting her. I'm determined to create beautiful memories and continue to cherish the moments we share.